The Irish Times this morning is what we're going to start with, and Sports Wednesday leads with Elliot's unique insight, a major advantage for Koepka. It's Philip Reid's piece around Royal Portrush, kind of some of the stuff we were talking about at the top of the show with regards to Tiger and to Brooks Koepka and to the non-return text. Just in the actual fact of what he actually said, he said, "Hey dude, do you mind if I tag along and play a practice round?" And he just heard nothing back. Not exactly the most compelling message for somebody like Brooks Koepka, who perhaps just doesn't like practice rounds.
Even the fact that Ricky Elliott, the caddy to the #1 player in the world, is from Portrush, like the synergy and the connections that Portrush has with golf, modern golf and golf through the ages, is just, must be unparalleled. From Fred Daly, who we saw there, 135 stagings of the Open Championship, he was the only Irish man to win it, born in Portrush. First man to tee off on Thursday morning is going to be Darren Clarke, former Open champion who lives in Portrush. Graham McDowell, a major winner, born in Portrush, grew up with Ricky Elliott, who's the caddy for the world's #1 player. Rory McIlroy, the best player of his generation, holds the course record at Portrush. Every other Irish player has played there and had success in North of Ireland championships. To have that much history in one course is just insane.
Yeah, I think we kind of take it for granted that Tiger Woods is up the road.
Oh, for anybody who's going, and people will have attended Irish Opens down through the years, and a lot of golf fans, hardcore golf fans, travel to the UK and will go to Open Championships year on year. Like, compared to an Irish Open, I would say it's 10 times the size. You go to the range at the Irish Open, and was there on the Wednesday, and John Rahm's there, and everybody wants to catch a glimpse of John Rahm, or maybe Niall Horan if he's warming up for the Pro-Am. But you go to the Open Championship, and even if Tiger's not there, well, Rory will be there, or Mickelson will be there, or Dustin Johnson, or Brooks Koepka, or Jason Day. Like, it's every single one of the world's top 50 together in the same place. It's just on a whole different level. I don't think there's ever been, or will ever be, until it's back again, a bigger sporting event on this island in terms of star power.
Ryder Cup?
Even bigger than the Ryder Cup, because you have... Firstly, it's just 24 players at the Ryder Cup, but you have the best players from outside of Britain and Ireland. And the history of the Open Championship is slightly different probably to a Ryder Cup. It's a different kind of build-up, I think. You know, Ryder Cup's probably a one-week event. The Open Championship sort of lasts forever. Just think, when people get up there, they're probably going to be in for a bit of a shock by the actual scale of an Open Championship. Even watching and following some people on Twitter who've been up there over the last couple of days, like just around Portrush, like Henrik Stenson walking down a back road to his holiday house that he's staying in. Like, you've got 150 golfers there, almost all of whom are recognisable. So to have all of them, as you say, just up the road in Portrush, to have Tiger Woods playing there, competitive, hopefully, alongside McIlroy, Brooks Koepka, I think when it tees off tomorrow morning, maybe it'll properly sink in.
We'll get stuck into the nuts and bolts, of course, as to what's going to happen this weekend throughout the show. But just one last thing from the Irish Times. In the word of mouth section in John O'Sullivan's Portrush diary, we all know that Graham McDowell loves a cold beer or two. So he was speaking at a fundraiser for the RNLI, and he was asked which bar he would choose to celebrate if he won this week's major. And his response was, "I'll go to them all. If I win on Sunday night, the Claret Jug will be in many establishments in Portrush, probably for the next couple of days, and everyone is invited."
Boom.
A lot of cold beers.
Have you been to Portrush?
Never.
Great town.
Yeah? Versus, like, I'm straight away looking at the golf tournaments we've had on this island over the last month, and it's like Lahinch looked amazing, even though I wasn't down there.
It'd be similar-ish to Lahinch.
As in, kind of one street.
Yeah.
Takes over.
Yeah, sort of. Well, just one sort of street around the harbour. Now, the one time I was in Portrush was rather late at night and it was dark. You know, maybe they should improve the lighting late at night so you get a full sense of what the town is like. But they know how to throw a party.
Yeah, geez, you're not going up, are you?
I am, yeah.
All right, when?
Yeah, heading up Friday.
Oh, very good.
So the Ramore, I think, is the main. Follow Stephen Ferris on Twitter is what I would, who seems to, maybe he lives in Portrush, certainly spends most of his life there. But the Ramore is the main pub complex, and I think it's made up of about 5 different pubs.
Right. So you'll see Graham McDowell there on Sunday night.
Well, hopefully Sunday night, not Friday night.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
Hopefully.
That would be uber impressive if we saw him on Friday night and Sunday night as a victor.
Yeah. So the Irish Daily Star goes with the golf as well. McIlroy's Claret Blub. Rory says he's going to be crying if he lifts the Open Championship on Sunday.
Like, I completely buy what he's been saying for the last couple of months, that this would be the biggest moment of his career.
Absolutely. And he made an interesting comment yesterday that he didn't dream of holding the putt on the 18th at Portrush to to win an Open Championship, because you simply couldn't dream of that when he was growing up in Northern Ireland. That he never thought it'd be possible that an Open Championship would be held in his country. So for it to be here now, and we're obsessed, and he's obsessed, and everybody's obsessed with McIlroy winning the career Grand Slam and how this would cap his career. But if he wins this week, I think in 50 years' time, when you're looking back on one photograph to sum up McIlroy's career, it will be lifting the claret jug at Portrush. So that's what's at stake from his record in the Open Championship. We can get onto this with McGinley, is exceptional. He's obviously won it previously, so he doesn't have that sort of a hangover. The other story is it's war. Ross called on Conway to stand down. Tracy warns FAI over funding. This has obviously escalated somewhat over the last 24 hours. The FAI debacle. Shane Ross and John Tracy turned up the heat on the FAI ahead of this weekend's EGM. It has emerged that Shane Ross has written to Donald Conway urging the beleaguered FAI president to withdraw from elections this weekend. Conway is the only nominee for the role of president and is set to secure a 12-month extension. However, Ross has written to him claiming that the process for the upcoming election falls short of the transparency and democracy which we would expect of an organisation seeking to implement good governance practices. Is Donald Conway beleaguered? Is that the correct word?
It probably is, but like, I can definitely see the whole point here behind the lack of transparency, the fact that you've got the same old fellas running the same old organisation. But ultimately, there's also a point here that do one or two people need to stay to actually oversee the transition? Like, that's the kind of counterpoint to this. And I wonder if we're going to hear from him on that. Like, my personal view would be it looks really, really bad for the FAI to actually have the same people moving forward. But it has been mentioned in the governance review that there should be one or two people who actually oversee this thing to go forward. I don't think Conway is the right person to do that, and I think his performance at the Oireachtas Committee in April probably suggests that as well. Emmett Malone makes a very good point in the Irish Times this morning that he could have done with an election. He could have done with fighting off somebody for the job. Him getting the role unopposed is the worst thing, and this does not make this any better on an optics level whatsoever.
No, and optics is the key for all of this. So Donald Conway's only been in the job. It was, what, a 5-year term? He said even a couple of months ago he wasn't going to see it all out, but that since he took over last August, like, let's be honest, he has overseen the worst 12 months any sporting organisation in this country has ever gone through. Like, humiliation, embarrassment, disgrace, all of those things are what his time as president are going to be remembered for. And even on a basic level of like John Delaney's new role as executive vice president, he oversaw the creation of that role after the Sunday Times made the inquiries. So, yeah, maybe there does need to be that transitionary period of a couple of members of the board staying on. But you just think it cannot be Donald Conway front and centre answering questions for the next 6 or 9 months. The other story, just before we leave the Star, is the Cork Defend Pork move. So Cork Chiefs have defended the decision to relay the pitch at Porky Queeve, which means the footballer Super 8 final round clash will move to Porky Rin. So obviously the pitch has been in pretty terrible state at Porky Queeve. To have it ready for the league next February, they need to dig the pitch up instantly before the footballers get their final game against Roscommon. Porky Rin holds 16,400. Unless there's something massive at stake, surely that'll be fine?
Yeah, totally fine. We've just had word in from the box, seismic news with regards to 1951 or not 1951. Looking at a headline here, World Cup stunning moments, Uruguay's 1950 triumph in Brazil. So I think you might have been heard.
Thank you.
I think you actually
58, 62, 70 is what I was thinking.
Yeah. I'm very, very sorry to you. I'm very, very sorry to Uruguay. Very, very sorry
to Brazil. But it's done now.
Brazil
a lot of people will be on their way to work. They'll have switched off going, well, there's no point tuning in for the rest of the show. This lad knows nothing about historical sport. Yet.
You got 60% in 1951 and
that put me off. That was the first question. My flow was gone.
Your respect has been garnered.
If that wasn't true, all my memories of 1950 are around Uruguay winning the World Cup.
They're all irrelevant. Back page of the Irish Daily Mail is open and shut. Portmarnock could be host, says Padraig Harrington. This is very interesting. Padraig Harrington talking about the possibility of taking the Open outside of Northern Ireland or outside of Britain, that the RNA basically have they basically control golf outside of North America for pretty much all countries bar a few. That he mentioned the possibility of going to Australia, but also the potential of going to the Republic of Ireland and going to the likes of Portmarnock, of course. It's where James Sugary won his amateur Open this year, and people kind of raised their eyebrows when they saw the Amateur Open being held in Portmarnock. But I think he's making the point that this is the Open. If you want to actually forward the Open brand, it doesn't necessarily need to be the British Open.
But do they want to forward?
Well, that's a very different question. That's a very different question.
The British Open. 10 years ago, nobody would have thought it was possible that Portrush would be hosting the Open Championship. Now, for probably different reasons, that Portrush hasn't hosted it, obviously, for the last, 70-something years, 68 years at this stage. It still feels as though, even for Portmarnock has its own issues that it would need to sort out if it's to host an Open Championship. You can see why Padraig Carrington's putting it out there. It would be an unbelievable thing for Dublin if Portmarnock could host an Open Championship. You're probably looking at least a decade away, and already they've so many courses on the rota. And remember, Portrush, this isn't the one-off of Portrush. It's going to host the Open at least a couple of more occasions over the next couple of decades. Like Turnberry, maybe Trump is an issue with that. Like Turnberry hasn't hosted an Open Championship since 2009, and it's an unbelievably good venue. So there's courses in that rota that aren't getting much of a look in as it is. Are they willing to add another one outside of Britain?
Yeah, are you saying that the RNA aren't overly progressive?
I think they've shown
to be fair,
at times they can be, but slowly.
The Sun this morning have a special Royal Portrush Open supplement, and it's Rory McIlroy, who is Ironman. Oh no, it's not. That is not Ironman.
Flash Gordon.
It's Flash Gordon. Wow, that's it's bad that you're telling me that. Don't be so flash, Rory. Major expert Cowan. Slow down, McIlroy. The actual back page of the Sun this morning, though, is Paul the other one. Ole, boss says Pogba will win fans over, and Paul Pogba is staying at Manchester United.
So it
seems that way.
So it seems after all of this. Now, is this just one final desperate bid from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to keep him, that they're in Australia, so there's no escape from him right now? They have him. They've him locked in the hotel. They maybe have somehow managed to keep Mino Raiola away from him. They've taken his 18 phones off him, and they have cornered him and basically tied him down and forced him to accept that you're staying here. Because the alternative is this drags on to the final couple of weeks of the transfer window. He ends up leaving. They have no replacement in sight. And, Ed Woodward's, has he got a reputation, is destroyed even further. It's a pretty similar headline in the Mirror Sport. Well, similar story, great headline. I'll give the Pogba home. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is convinced he can hand Paul Pogba a new challenge that will make him an Old Trafford legend. Pogba and his agent are agitating for his move, with United determined to hold on to their signing. Solskjaer is considering him, obviously, for the captain's role, which I think caught everybody by a little bit of surprise. And again, with the Open, Rory, if I win the jug, I'll blub. Has anyone ever used the word blub?
Trying to think, like you would want to be. I would say that the verb blub would have been used quite a bit around Wimbledon in the expensive seats the last day. I would say.
What blubbing were they doing?
Well, no, just the general term. It's not exactly one that people of your level or my level would use. But if we were of a higher social class, we might use the verb blub. The Herald this morning is interesting. Back page leads with FAI to stand firm. Conway plan to proceed despite Ross call. But there's another story here from Conor McKeown. Ray Cosgrove has got very interesting comments. No helicopters, no gear, no free boots. He talks about Dublin and their finances, and he says it's to do with the work and effort and the application. There's only so many hours in the week the guys can train. All the players are in work or college, so it's not as though they can do any more than any other team. To attribute their success to money is wrong. There's no helicopters, there's no bag of gear, there's no deals for free boots, he says.
Bollocks. Well, firstly, where are they going to be getting a helicopter to? Are they just going to do a tour of the city? Sightseeing tours? Where are they getting the helicopter? Traffic is a bit bad. The M50 will get a helicopter up. Maybe not a bad idea. Is that a dig at Donegal? And when Jim McGuinness took over, the players rocking down for the session before the All-Ireland semi-final in the helicopter?
Dig at Paddy O'Shea in Kerry as well, I'd imagine. He was famed for using his helicopter to get up to Dublin one time. Gooch wrote that in his book. Also, there was talk that he flew when he was Westmeath manager. He used to fly to Dublin and then drive down to Westmeath. So that's actually commercial air travel. So, no, a lack of helicopters is something that we should have seen coming. This is no excuse.
And you would think as well, with Jim Gavin's background in aviation, that he'd be able to sort this out.
Well, that's very true.
He, more than anybody, would see the benefits of the players from the south side been able to get a helicopter to training in DCU.
Imagine if Jim Gavin was manager of Donegal. Like, everybody would be getting helicopters up and down. They could train wherever they want. It'd be amazing. But yeah, so I don't know. It's a new one on me to hear that the lack of air travel is something that we should be speaking about with regards to this. But it is this old chestnut that it's got to do with work ethic and application. And
well, obviously it has to do with work ethic and application.
Better than everybody else's.
But maybe their application is. Maybe their application is better than everybody else because of the knowledge and the backroom team that they have in place, which means that they are working the same as everybody else, but maybe they're just working better. But there's to say that players don't have boot deals. You're telling me there's not one single player in that Dublin GAA squad that isn't getting free boots? Sorry, there's players getting free boots in every squad. And free gear. If I was on an inter-county squad, I'd be wanting free boots and free gear.
I'm not sure who's actually got the boot deals, or I'm not sure what brand it is, but you're right. Like, if I'm somebody who owns a sports shop, I'm getting everybody in to get a picture with their brand new pair of boots before they walk out the door with them.
Every pundit who's on TV, except for us, Owen, gets a free suit from EJ Menswear.
Not even the pundits, to be honest with you, I'd imagine. Everybody who's on television.
That's what I mean.
Why haven't we managed to tap into this? Like, we could get free suit deals. You could get air travel from Mayo, from Kerry. You wouldn't need to have a house in South Dublin, Nathan.
I could helicopter up.
You could helicopter up down to Ballyhonus. You could be with your people.
Right.
And it would be a life-changing thing, but we might look into that some other time. The Irish Examiner sports section goes with the headline, Tea Party, Simon Lewis on Portrush's open transformation, and Kieran Shannon saying that John Myler deserves gratitude, but even he'll see it's time to come. He's coming up with the opinion that John Myler needs to step away now that he's done a good job, but he's taken Cork as far as they can possibly go.
The headline on The Telegraph, The Ring of Success, which is Brooks Koepka with his phone. Brooks Koepka has his phone. He's looking at Tiger Woods' text and going, screw this guy. Screw this guy. Tiger 15 years ago, Brooks Koepka wants to hang around with, for many reasons. Right now he's like, nah, this old guy, no chance. Stay united and become a legend. Solskjaer tells unsettled Pogba he can fulfil his ambitions at Old Trafford. Can he really, though?
Absolutely not.
What if his ambition is to win the Champions League this year? He quite literally cannot fulfil that ambition at Manchester United. The Guardian, this can't be the end. Strauss urges England to build on win, which is obviously to do with the cricket. And there's Tiger. Woods focused as he practices for this week's Open Championship. But the 15 times major winner admits he's not yet in his sharpest form.
He's on the back page of the Irish Independent this morning as well. All smiles in Portrush yesterday. But the main headline on the back of the Irish Independent is Park closed until 2020 as pitch overhaul gets underway. So they're forced into switching their Super 8s venue, as Nathan mentioned a moment ago. The one thing that I questioned was, is this an additional cost onto the extortionate cost already? But Colm Keys does have the line that the cost has already been incorporated into the €95.8 million set out for Páirc Uí Chaoimh's redevelopment earlier in the year.
And the Times, the English edition, a couple of interesting stories. Trippier set to join Atletico. So Kieran Trippier, always still, for some reason, and maybe because it's few and far between, there's a lot of younger players, obviously, going to the more continental clubs, but it's still so rare for English players to go to bigger clubs abroad. You get a little bit excited and intrigued every time. Kieran Trippier set to join Atletico Madrid for £20 million, it seems. More interesting maybe in what's happening with Tottenham in this transfer window. Right now it looks as though they're going to lose Kieran Trippier. Danny Rose, it seems, is on his way out, and Toby Alderweireld is widely expected to join Roma. Now, 2 years ago, they were three-quarters of probably the best defence in the league alongside Jan Vertonghen. And have they got the replacements? Have they got the money to replace them? There's obviously a lot of speculation they might sign Ryan Sessegnon, and they still have Ben Davies as a left-back. I've always been a huge fan of Danny Rose, so I think he'll be a loss. Trippier was funny in that I remember when himself and Kyle Walker were sort of going head-to-head. Pretty much every pundit we had in Premier League games when we'd be at White Hart Lane would rave about Trippier, that they felt he was so far ahead of Kyle Walker, and obviously then had that brilliant World Cup, but has fallen behind over the last year. Like 20 million doesn't seem like a huge amount in the current market for letting Trippier go. And all they have is Serge Aurier and Kyle Walker-Peters as backup. It does seem as though a team in Tottenham's position, unless financially they need the money, like to be only getting, say, 45 million for Alderweireld and Trippier seems, in sort of Daniel Levy's world, doesn't seem like a particularly good deal. And who's stepping in? Maybe they're happy that Davinson Sanchez and Jan Vertonghen can do the job, but it'll be interesting to see if they go after anybody else. Also in the Times, Lingard feels Solskjaer fury, so this is to do with that video that was all over social media a couple of weeks ago. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has disciplined Jesse Lingard over his controversial social media video and warned his players they must take responsibility for their actions. The Manchester United manager told his squad he cannot spoon feed them, and that they have to learn how to conduct themselves on the pitch. Lingard posted a video on Snapchat. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
So he was in his Miami hotel with Marcus Rashford and former United youth player Rashawn Williams, who's now at Shrewsbury Town, and their friend Jamel Branker when he was filmed gyrating on a pillow.
Is that anything you've ever done while on holidays?
Certainly not.
Right, okay, just making sure.
Why, have you?
Pre-Snapchat era?
Lingard had provided commentary of the whole thing. That has been dealt with internally, Solskjaer said. I'm old school, old-fashioned, quite big in discipline and self-discipline. Can't spoon-feed these players. They've got to do it themselves, is the message from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Also an interesting piece inside the Times with Pete Cowan. Don't know if you're that aware of Pete Cowan. I guess people are becoming more aware of Pete Cowan. He is suddenly the best golf coach in the world, even though he's been around for donkey's years at this stage. But he was the coach of Gary Woodland, who won the US Open. He is Brooks Koepka's short game coach, is what they say, but I think the understanding is that actually he is essentially Brooks Koepka's swing coach. And you look back over, I think it's 10 of the last 31 major winners he's coached, but he's also started to do a little bit of media over the last while, and anything he's done, he's been fascinating. He did a piece on Sky Sports during their US Open coverage on the range on the final day when he was watching a couple of his players warm up, and he tore Henrik Stenson to pieces,
right,
who's one of his players. And a sort of angle of golf coaching that I'd never really thought of before, which that actually the coaches get annoyed with the players, whereas we always think everything lands with the players and they hire and fire their coaches. He was making the point Stenson was in contention, that actually he's like said, Stenson's swing it's in unbelievable shape. Like, he couldn't be swinging at any better. He said Henrik's problem is, mentally he won't take the driver out. Just doesn't have enough confidence, but he can hit that driver straight all day long. But, mentally you'd have to question, like, bloody hell. So he's pretty honest during all this. Talks about Matt Wallace, who I'm sure you've covered previously, his Irish caddy Dave McNeely, who he was rude to put it mildly, acted pretty disgracefully with his general attitude towards him. He said of Matt Wallace, remember, he's going to see Matt Wallace today more than likely on the range. He's a complete idiot. The European Tour has to do something about it. A bollocking is no good. A fine is no good. He needs a ban. It's a form of cheating because you're putting your opponent off. The best thing would have been if his caddy had dropped his bag. I'd have chucked it in the bloody lake, but that wouldn't do Dave McNeely any good. Other stories he had, talks about Darren Clark, who he worked with. So Clark in 2011 was in absolute dire form before he won the Open Championship at Royal St George. He puts it down to working with Bob Rotella, who said the right thing on the Wednesday, but he was also involved. Pete Cowan, he says, on the Tuesday morning, this is in 2011, I talked him down off the ledge. I'd done it 1,000 times. He played crap at the Scottish Open and got hammered on the way to St George's. Didn't turn up in the course on Monday. And on Tuesday, walks down towards us on the range, shoulders down, caddy 20 yards behind. I ask him if he's all right. No, I'm not, he says. I can't play this game. I told him the weather was going to be shocking and he was the best bad weather player by far. I gave him one thing to think about, and before long he's hitting every shot. But the thing that really got him fired up was he was practicing with McIlroy, Westhazen and Schwartzel, who'd all just won majors. They were walking up 12, and to a man they all turned around and said, "Where's your major, Clarky?" He went absolutely berserk. Yeah, so definitely well worth reading that piece with Pete Cowan. That's in the Times today.
Did he go as berserk as he went to Dave McIntyre that time?
Did he turn around to the three of them and go, that's a particularly stupid question?
The Racing Post this morning leads with the racing. Frankie Fever hits Killarney. Superstar Jockey has 4 rides on first visit. And Speed Kings is on the back of the Racing Post. Sprint Stars could have their final chance to shine before Paris. It's Tour de France headline there. And we have the Irish news here as well. Neil Lennon on Kieran Tierney leading the way, saying they will play hardball over Tierney. So it looks like the £25 million offer is not going to be accepted too easily. And the Metro Sport as well. Wood says, give me a break. He defends his Open preparation, and the Masters victory left him drained. Right, it is 8 minutes past 8 on this Wednesday morning. You're watching OTB AM, the sports breakfast show from Off the Ball. We're talking GAA next. Ross Munnelly is standing by to join us in studio. He's going to talk through Laois's summer and preview this weekend's Super 8's games. We're also hearing from Kieran Donaghy on Kerry versus Mayo straight after these.